Hello, and welcome to the Rona Rants. This is podcast number 11, and tonight we have a very special guest. It's my older and slightly obnoxious older brother. How's it going, Martin?
I resent that comment, actually. But other than that, everything's cool. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It's kind of weird that we're speaking in English since we're both Portuguese, and usually we don't have to switch to another language, but we thought it would be better to keep the same standard.
Definitely better. Yeah. If you think about it, there was a time in our life where we used to speak in English all the time, right? When we were living in England.
Yep.
But then I guess after you transition into Portugal, it just becomes so much more natural and easy to speak Portuguese because everybody around you speaks Portuguese that you kind of leave English for video games and these types of things that aren't part of the day-to-day conversation.
It's quite weird too because I mean we both moved to England when we were really young, and it became it was technically my first language. It became your main language for a while. At least, yeah, it was kind of like your first language. And,
yeah, I could speak. I think I could speak a decent amount of Portuguese before we left, but not too much, right?
Not too much, right? Then English became the number one. Yeah, and so for a few years we did speak only in English, but then we moved back to Portugal, and I don't know when it happened, but we somehow transitioned Portuguese maybe in second grade, my second grade or third grade. It was weird though. Really weird.
Yeah, it was the same year we arrived, a matter of months, I guess.
And do you remember, like, we used to have, both of us, we used to have an English accent. And then I remember that, like, as we were, as the years passed and we were relearning English for school, I remember that we kind of decided to stray away from the English accent because we thought it was really douchey. Do you remember that?
Do you remember deciding that? I don't remember deciding it. I just kind of remember it happening.
I remember deciding it.
Proud of it.
You were proud of it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the thing is, the English accent sounds really nice to people who aren't English, especially it's very easy to fool someone who isn't a native. Like, I was never able to fool someone who actually lived in England,
right,
as to what being a native speaker. But people outside of England would always compliment me on my English, and a lot of that had to do with the accent as well, not just the vocabulary. So I guess I was kind of proud of it, but over time I lost it. It became more of, I sound now what I started sounding like over time. So it's like an amalgamation of British, American, Australian, and then the Portuguese influence as well of hanging out with people in Portugal who speak English.
Yeah. But that's funny that you don't remember, or maybe my memories are distorted now, but I really do remember that we were growing up and we would speak in an English accent, and but it wasn't like a perfect one. It used to be, but it wasn't a perfect one. And then we decided to drop it because it sounded really posh and it sounded like we were pretending to be people we weren't. And then we stuck to the American one. I really do remember that, but maybe I planted those memories in my head.
Well, maybe we agreed on that. I don't remember. Maybe we agreed. Maybe you decided this. Maybe it's one or the other. That sounds like something that you would decide, to be honest.
I think I decided that. Yeah, I liked the American accent when I was younger, so I thought, okay, let's try it. But now I have this bastard expat accent.
Also, Dad would have pushed us a lot to try to keep the English accent, so it was a good way to be a rebel. I think it sounds like something you would decide.
So now to get on with the topics, the first topic is really important, or like a big point to talk about, because I feel like it's one of the cornerstones of your life now. And can you guess what it is?
Leprosy?
Not leprosy. It also starts with an L, though.
Okay, yeah. So it's the list.
It's the list. So what is your list and how does it work? Can you tell new people like what does your list entail? What's the point or what is it?
Yeah. The interesting thing about explaining this is I've only, I think I've explained this over 10 times in my life, and maybe once I've been able to make it seem appealing.
Okay,
So
let's
I'm
try.
gonna do my. Basically, I've divorced myself of the idea that I can make people want to do something like the list, but honestly, I don't really care. I think it's an interesting system for me, and if other people are interested, they can join it. So basically, the list is sort of a structured approach to consuming entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I've created a system which is run on Excel. Unfortunately, it's not really programmed on Excel, so I know the rules of the system in my head, and I change everything manually. Maybe one day I'll get it automated. But basically, the system tells me what to do next in terms of what TV show to watch next, what video game to play next, what book to read next, what music album to listen to next, or what movie to watch next.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and put it very simply, that's how it works. Basically, the way that I use it is whenever I have some free time and I want to do something for myself, like just to chill out, to do something entertaining, I will do whatever is next on the list rather than, decide whatever I feel like at the time.
Right. So why did this even become a thing? Like why would someone even do this? What's the
Yeah.
point?
Well, before I had this, let's go back to the beginning, like the whole beginning. When I was much younger,
Mm-hmm.
I would watch TV shows more or less on a whim, right? So I would maybe start an anime show, and I wouldn't finish because I would get to maybe episode 20 and I would be bored and I would start watching something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I would start to feel over time somewhat bad for not completing things, not seeing things through.
Yeah.
Um, and I would accumulate a big backlog of shows that I never finished.
Yeah.
I also kind of realized that I was watching things that were very similar. So I was watching a lot of comedy TV shows. I was watching How I Met Your Mother. I was watching Scrubs. I was watching I can't remember others at the time, but you see what I'm getting at. Like it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same sort of show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of feeling a need for some diversity, but I didn't know how to create the diversity.
Okay.
And I also felt like I was only playing video games or watching TV. I wasn't hearing any music. I always felt like I was super uncultured musically,
Okay.
very uncultured in terms of movies. Like my movie general knowledge was very poor.
Yeah.
And also, I lost a big habit that I had when I was younger, which was reading. I used to read a lot, and I kind of lost that. So I thought of a system where I could kind of scratch all of those itches at the same time. So find a way to force myself to finish what I start, find a way to expose myself to new things, and find a way to start reading again, listen to more music, watch more movies, etc., etc. So yeah, first it started just like a system to keep track of what I was doing. So I'm on episode X of season Y of this show, and I'm on page whatever of this book, and so on.
Right.
And then I started deciding maybe there should be an order. Maybe I should first finish this show and then start reading this book. And then it just kind of escalated from there. I mean, now the system has a bunch of weird ass rules that are hard to explain, but make sense considering the different iterations that the list has had.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some really cool things about the list that I've seen. Like you already know my stance on the list. I can share it with the rest of the people later, but I think there's some really positive things about the list. Like definitely the trying new things and the randomness that you get. Because I guess there's no point going into details, but there's like uh, a big random mechanic there, which is interesting and it
Yeah,
makes
it's
things.
easy to explain.
Yeah.
Basically, just imagine that you have a pool of, let's say, books. Books is the easiest example.
Hmm.
I've got all of the books that I own in the list,
Yeah.
so they're all archived. And I finish one book, and now I want to know what book I should read next. The next book is randomly generated. Each book has a number, and whatever number comes up from the random generation is the next book that I'll read. And then it's a bit, it's not pure random because sequels won't it's programmed so that sequels can't appear before their prequels, and so basically each book or series of books has a number.
Hmm.
So that's the randomness of it. It's really like a loot box mechanic. It's kind of fun to finish something because then you really want to find out what's coming next
Exactly.
in the list.
I really like that component. I think I had that as well. Like I copied you in that sense in one of my lists.
You had that with video games, I remember.
Yeah, with video games. And I felt like that was quite fun. But yeah, in general, I think a lot of people would relate to the problems that you mentioned before, like starting to watch a show and then not finishing it all the way through, or maybe you pick up a show and you watch like the first two episodes and you don't give it a try. You know, for example, I remember you mentioned to me the 5 episode rule, which is something that I also adopted.
Yeah,
Which,
exactly.
yeah, do you want to tell? Do you want to?
Yeah, it's just I needed a way to give myself an out, because the thing about the list was that in the prior versions, when you start watching a show, a TV show, you
Mhm.
have to finish one season before you can move on to the next thing on the list.
Right.
The problem is that sometimes you pick shitty shows to put on the list, and you have to,
Exactly.
and you don't want to force yourself through an entire season of something that's really bad. So I created a rule where you need to at least watch the first 5 episodes and then you decide. So this works really well for shows which have a large number of episodes in a season. Doesn't work so well for miniseries that have like 10 episodes, because
Hmm.
then you've watched half of the miniseries before you can drop it.
Exactly.
But actually, even for those, it works well, because sometimes it's happened that like the first 2 episodes of a show aren't very convincing. But if a show hasn't won you over by the 5th episode, then probably it's not going to win you over at all. So I think
Right.
it's not bad. You could do it with 3 or any other number, to be honest, though.
Yeah. I like the 5 episode rule because of certain shows that I watched. I only started getting better at around 4 or 5.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes
Um.
they try out things at the start. The pilot episodes of
Yeah.
shows are usually very weird. They're kind of feeling what they want to do with the show.
Yeah.
So I think around 5, you kind of get the grip on the writers get a grip on what they want to do, and you get a grip on what they want to do, and you can decide for yourself if you want to continue or not.
Exactly. Yeah, I think like with every show that someone recommends you, you should at least watch 5 episodes before you make a decision. And yeah, I kind of took that from your list. And just in general, I do relate to that feeling of leaving series to how do I explain it? So what happens to me is that it's rare that I don't finish a season. I tend to always finish the seasons of shows that I'm watching unless I get really bored. But what happens to me a lot is that I lose track of a certain show because the current season ended, right? And then I start watching another show, and maybe half a year later, a new season comes up, and I just completely forget about it. And at some point, time goes on, and there's like 2 or 3 more seasons now on this show, and I just don't feel like picking it up again. But with your
Yeah.
list, the way you have it, you're basically forced to pick up the show again. It's like an extra kick.
Yeah, it is a problem when when you reach the end of a show and you need to wait for a next season.
Hmm.
Um, so what I do now is I have a list of shows that are pending, right? Because I've reached the end and I'm waiting for the next season. And
Yeah.
for that, I need to periodically check if something's come out, or if there's an ETA already for the next season. That's something that I do manually, and it doesn't actually have much structure when I check things. Sometimes I'll be surprised and see, oh shit, there's a new season of this show that I need to watch, and then I update it. That's a part that I need to work on still. But the thing that you didn't copy from the list is the essential part.
Oh, okay, go
Yeah.
on.
So the essential part of the list is that it requires some effort, right? It's not just about you're not supposed to do what you feel like with the list. The
Okay.
whole point is to fight so if you're a person like me, and there's not that many people that care this much about entertainment. That's the first thing. Like you were saying, I think a lot of people would relate to the problems that you have. I disagree, actually. I don't think many people relate to my problems. I think most people just watch TV for the fun of it and play games for the fun of it, and they don't even want to think too much about it. They don't care at all, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I don't even think that I am superior in any way to those people. I feel like it's a negative side of me that I can't detach myself and just watch something passively. I get extremely bored. So I always feel like I need to be progressing some way. So the list is kind of a way to give myself some gamification of watching shows. But the point of that is, once you make a decision to watch something and you go over the 5-episode barrier, for example, that's what you need to watch. Like you shouldn't. I feel like watching something else today, so I'm not going to follow the list. And there's no point in having a list. There's no point in having a structured set of rules if you're not going to follow them.
Right, because I need to explain this. I don't think it was clear. Like, so the thing about the list is that that's the only thing you do. You know, there's no parallel execution here unless you're in a different city, right? So from what I understand, it's like, okay, let's say you have books, movies, shows, TV shows, and mute. No, okay, yeah, okay,
Music,
just in music. You will only do one of these things at a time, at one instance, right? You're not gonna do them in parallel.
No, I won't do them in parallel.
Exactly.
There's very limited situations where you can skip a step.
So it's like, yeah, so basically you can only watch one show at a time, or read one book at a time, and that's it.
No,
And all the
it's not really like, it's more like, so what's next on the list? It's this TV show. Okay, so until I finish this TV show, I'm not going to read any book or listen to any music or watch any movie. And then when I finish the TV show, maybe the next thing is a book. So until I finish the book, I'm not going to watch the TV show, and so on. But the crucial thing is, this is only applicable when I'm on my own and in my free time, because doing this with a girlfriend who wants to watch things with you doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, like sometimes you would have to say no to watching movies with your friends, or you know, listening to music with your family. It would be stupid. So basically, when I'm in full control of my time, I apply the list. Otherwise, I don't.
Fair enough. Okay. But there was a. Can we talk about the bad sides of the list? Because there's
we can, but it's a short conversation. Because
there's a really big downside to the list. I don't know if the listeners have already like foreseen it, besides the obvious. But
it's not a downside.
There's one downside, and it is gifting something to my brother. So so the thing is, what happens with the list is, as soon as he gets a new input, so a new game or a new album or new book or whatever, it goes to the backlog, and so it becomes eligible to be randomly selected, which means that if you give him a book, he's not going to read it in the next month.
You don't know that.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know, but chances are probably will only read it in the next 5 years, like in 5 years from then, you know. And I mean, I like the system. I think the system has a lot of advantages, but this is so frustrating. I think there should be a clause for gifts, because then
but it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work, man. Because the thing is, I don't really spend that much time on entertainment in general.
Right.
I don't apply the list. I think I use the lists at most an hour a week because I
Okay.
don't have that much free time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if I were to give priority to everything that someone gives me or recommends to me?
Mm-hmm.
Recommendations, especially, you
Yeah.
don't know how often people will recommend TV shows to you.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? Like if you recommend a TV show to me today, okay, maybe I'll start watching this, and then
You'll be
tomorrow,
drowned, right?
yeah, tomorrow somebody else recommends another show. What am I supposed to do? That goes behind the one that you recommended because I started that first. And then the next day somebody gives me a book. Okay, but I'm watching these TV shows, so that goes behind the two TV shows. And before you know it, you have another list.
Yeah, it kind of ruins the list. That's true. I'm not sure how I would fight that problem.
I know how you would
Uh,
do it.
no, I'm saying like if if I had the list as
Yeah,
you
I
have,
know how
yeah.
you would do it. You would destroy the list by creating the bag override, where you can basically just do whatever you want. And there's no point in having structure at all.
I'm not gonna say no. There's another side topic which is kind of big, but it's related to this, and that's completionism. Because I think it's important to mention this because, um, especially with games, I'm not sure how you do with books and music and all of that, but with games, you need to complete the games. So it's not just finish the games; it's like complete them 100%. But how
Yeah,
does that work?
it's got a few
And
limitations.
why? And why? Why do you do that?
Basically, I want to just experience everything that the game has to offer. And I feel like if you just play the normal story to the end, you don't get that because you don't get all of the side quests, you don't get optional bosses, you don't get the even grinding can be an interesting experience in some situations because you need to find the most efficient way to grind something, and that's like a puzzle in itself. Um, Obviously, there's some parts that are boring. Completing
Mm-hmm.
some games is boring. I'm not going to lie.
For sure.
But also, like I kind of like it. I like the feeling of completing the game, and then I can put it on the shelf and feel like there's nothing more that I want to do with this game. There's nothing more that I could even, remotely do with this game.
Yeah.
But I used to take this way further. I used to, if I needed to buy additional games to unlock content in my old in the game, I would do it. If I needed to, spend hours online in old games which are barely supported anymore to get an achievement, I would do it. And now my system is a lot more lenient. Now I just do everything that I can in a game which has some sort of token or progress marker,
Mm-hmm.
and which I don't have to spend any money on. And normally I avoid online modes. It's usually easier for me because the PS4, for example, has a paid online mode. Switch has a paid online mode. I don't really have any accounts for those, so I
Yeah.
don't have the temptation either.
Yeah, dude. Like I do understand the completionism because I was doing the same before. Um, until I played Donkey Kong 64. And Donkey Kong 64 is probably one of the longest games to complete in terms of it's a collectible game. So it's full of collectibles, and it's extremely annoying because many times you have to backtrack to get one of the
Yeah, that one's
collectibles.
crazy.
It's extremely annoying. And it's not even that hard. It's not a very hard game to beat. It's just super long and annoying to complete. Um, and before that, I was also into completing games, but then I realized I think I only like it if there's a challenge. Like if it's just completing for the sake of completion, it's so annoying.
No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah,
But I get a lot of satisfaction out of having it done,
I get
even if the
that as
process
well.
isn't so interesting.
Once you got that 100%, it feels really really good.
Yeah, I think it's not for everyone, but definitely it works for me.
Mm-hmm. Also, an old high school friend of mine kind of got me into completing games as well. Like his name is Acacio. Remember
Yeah,
Acacio?
I remember that
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that both you and me, we used to buy a lot of games. We have a huge video game collection at home, and so we had a lot of games that we did not finish. And Acacio he didn't have as much like personal allowance, I guess. So he would only buy games once he had finished 100% the games that he had. So he had very few games, but yeah, his mentality was a lot. In a way, it was a lot less spoiled. Like he would pick up a game, get full platinum on it, 100% it completely, and then buy a new one. And I feel like he appreciated the game a lot more than I did when I was younger.
Okay, so there's two things I want to say there. The first thing is, I think something interesting happened with when you were living in Sweden, and you had was it a PS3?
Yep.
So at one point you just had one game, which
Yep.
was Nino Kuni or whatever.
Yeah.
So you really aced that game. Like you did everything that you could in that game. And then I decided to buy you like 5 secondhand games for your birthday or something.
Which was
And
great,
apparently,
but it was also
it
a
was
mistake
bad,
maybe.
right?
Yeah.
It was bad because you ended up trying a few and then you lost the will to kind of play any of them. And so that's interesting. Just having the abundance of choice makes it so that you end up not choosing anything, or you don't see one of the choices through.
Exactly.
And I think the second thing that I wanted to say is that that's kind of why the limitations of the list exist. Because what would happen if I could just decide to override it whenever I want is that if I ever run into a book, for example, or a movie that would be cool, important to watch or read, like maybe a book is an easier example, like an important book on philosophy that I would like to read, but it's something that's not appealing, not something that doesn't really call my attention to it. If I were able to override and just go watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine or play Dota or something, I would probably have a really hard time reading the book. Maybe I would never read the book.
Yeah.
But this way, I don't have a choice. If I don't read the book, then I can't do anything with entertainment by myself. So yeah, I'll read the book, even if it's just to get it over with. But ultimately, I get some value out of that as well.
I think the list makes a lot of sense given this background. Maybe it wouldn't make sense for people that don't have like an abundance of media to choose from.
No, then they have a list, which is life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change like the whole topic now and move to something a bit more personal, which is growing up as brothers. And actually, this is interesting to me because I think I've never asked you these questions before. But I wanted to ask, like, how was it growing up as an older brother? Did you feel pressure when you were growing up?
I don't know. I don't think. What do you mean pressure? In what way?
So I don't know. Like, so we're 3 years apart. 2.5 or 3 years, and yeah, it's just I feel like there's some expectation on older brothers to like be the trailblazers, and like show the ropes to the younger ones, even if it's not really true. But I feel like some people might have that expectation or feel that pressure. And I was wondering if you felt that when we were growing up or not really, because we weren't that far apart.
Well, what can I say? I actually don't think that I felt a lot of pressure to teach you anything because I think you've always been somewhat of an independent guy. So if I taught you something, it was always in when I wasn't trying to do it. Like if I was trying to teach you something, your independence would kick in and you would stop listening to me or do something else. So I don't think I felt a lot of pressure there. And in terms of trailblazing, I didn't feel like I had a choice. It wasn't really about pressure. So for example, I was the first to go to move out of our parents' house and to go to university. I was also the first to live abroad.
Yeah.
And if I look back, maybe that made things easier for you because you saw that, I did it. And so it's not so scary.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling something like, I need to do this to prove to my brother that he can do it. No, I was more worried about myself.
Okay.
Like, fuck, how am I going to survive?
Yeah,
Um,
I remember the first time you
Also,
left
there's
our
just one
house.
more thing,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about another kind of pressure, which is I also never felt the pressure to like protect you too much,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
I feel like maybe when you were a kid, but the thing, I think you were always much more um, confrontational than me, and also you became stronger than me very quickly as well. So I never really felt like I needed to protect you from anything. If anything,
That's
you
just a
would
stupid
protect
kid.
me. Yeah.
It's just a stupid kid with retard strength at the time. No. Now I'm back to being weak. Um okay, but that's interesting actually. I was always really I don't know, as a younger brother, we're kind of spoiled, I guess, in a way. I wasn't that spoiled, but I was like concerned. I remember feeling a lot of concern, like worrying. Oh, I hope you'll be okay. I hope you'll be fine. And things ended up being fine, so that was good. But I remember like when you left the house the first time, and you went to Lisbon, and you went to the residence, the residency. I remember that traumatized me because you obviously
Yeah,
didn't want to
I
go.
was crying like a bitch, dude. Of course it traumatized you.
It really traumatized me. Like, fuck, is it gonna be that bad? Oh
And it
man.
really wasn't. I was just
No.
really afraid of the unknown when I
Yeah.
was young.
Understandable though. For
I
real.
mean, it's really scary, I think, to make a big step like that when you're very inexperienced.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of factors there. Like I was going to Lisbon, which was a city that always scared me. I
Mhm.
was going to a degree that had nothing to do with my uh, well I went to law when before like maybe 6 months before deciding I was going to law, I was all set to be a computer engineer, so that was out of nowhere as well.
Yep.
I was moving to a residence managed by Opus Dei,
Mhm.
where when I wanted to go to an apartment or something so that I could be with my girlfriend, at least with somebody that I knew. So now I was going to be in a house with a bunch of random strangers, and I was just imagining like priests and people who were super strict.
Yeah.
Um, Turned
No.
out to be a really cool experience, but at the time it was pretty terrifying.
Mhm.
And yeah, you kind of feel like you're being abandoned to your luck, you know? They're just dropping, my parents dropped me off there, uh, and now good luck.
Yeah.
uh, but ultimately, I think
Dude, mom was
I'm
crying
sad that
so much in the car. I remember
I can
that.
imagine, I can imagine.
Yeah.
If I could go back, I would have put on a way braver face just so that you guys wouldn't worry so much. But
Yeah.
at
Yep.
the time, I wasn't thinking. I was pretty selfish, I guess. I was just thinking
Nah.
about myself and how fucked I was.
Nah. Nah. No. I
But it
don't
turned
think
out to
it's
be
selfish.
completely cool. I think it was just, when you're inexperienced, you always imagine monsters bigger than they are.
Mhm. Yeah. I was also curious about like, do you feel like we had a lot of rivalry as siblings?
I don't know. I think it's weird. Um, I definitely feel more sibling rivalry towards certain friends than towards you.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
I mean is, I feel like we're more of a cooperative team than a
Yeah.
competitive team.
We used to
Like, I
be
literally will be super happy when you achieve something. It
same.
makes me really happy.
Yeah. But
Whereas if a friend of mine will achieve something, certain friends of mine who I'm not going to mention, I just feel like I need to do more than this person immediately.
yeah. But do you feel like it was always this way? Like I feel I feel like when I was younger, um there was a point where I would get really mad if you won. No, but it was only when we were competing against each other directly, not with other
Video
things.
games is a different
Yeah, with
story,
video
right?
games. Yeah, with video games and sports as well. But video games, definitely.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, sports is different because I have an advantage over you
Yeah.
in the sports when we played because I was older. But in video games, at some point the difference of skill was very short.
Mhm.
Like even though I'm older, I think video games are a much more level playing field between the kid Marti and kid Bernardo, because
Yeah.
it would be playing basketball against me when we were 3 years apart, completely different from playing Smash or virtual striker or something like this.
Mm-hmm. But how does it feel like when your younger brother surpasses you, though?
I don't know. Never had that feeling.
I know. You sure? You sure? Let's
No,
go.
to be honest,
Let's go smash.
I am. I think there would be a time where I would be upset about that, but now I guess some things have changed.
Mm.
Like I think I'm a much more hey,
Hello? Yeah.
I think you dropped.
It was, yeah, something happened. I think Zoom maybe restarted it or something.
I can just repeat what I was
Yeah,
saying and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
edit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there would have been a time where I would be upset if you did something better than me,
Mm-hmm.
but now now I feel like I'm really happy to see you do something better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the difference is that um, now I don't feel so bad about myself if someone that I like
Mm-hmm.
gets something done better than me. I feel like it doesn't say anything about me, it says something about you, you
Right.
know? It
Yeah.
doesn't say that I'm bad, it says that you're awesome.
Yeah.
So when I made that mental shift, I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like a lot of things change when you grow older, like when you're above a certain age. I also feel the same way now. Like in the past, I wouldn't feel exactly the same. I would feel insecure about myself. But now, but yeah, it's kind of like I never felt that with you so much because I always had the excuse, oh, he's older, which is stupid, because we're like 2.5 years apart. It's not that much. Um, but I don't know. I feel happy when you achieve something, but also like nowadays it's hard to be a rival with someone because we branch out in so many different ways, like there's going to be so many different fields in which you're going to be much better than me and I'll have no chance of ever like being as good as you, and vice versa. um
Eh, I'm
and-
joking, I'm joking.
motherfucker. uh
No, but the point
yeah.
is, like if we were to focus on one thing, like
Yeah,
if you
if
and
we
I would
both
start,
dedicated our lives to one thing, like to one
yeah,
hobby. Mm-hmm.
like if we were to start playing, like when we were playing Tekken, I
Mm-hmm.
could feel that rivalry come up between us.
Oh
Like when
yeah.
I remember there was one game where you beat me, and I was pretty upset about that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but that
Especially
game,
because we
yeah, for
hadn't
sure.
practiced almost anything, so that was kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, otherwise you can always just be happy for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that has to do with the fact that we get along really well, even for I think brothers. I don't know if brothers normally get along well, but I think we get along better than average.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. But do you I have a controversial question here. Do you think mom and dad treated us the same?
No, actually, I think they
Yeah.
protected you a lot more.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they were super protective towards you, and it would annoy me not because I wanted to feel protected, but because I didn't think that you needed to be protected as much
Mm-hmm.
as you were. I
Mm-hmm.
think the problem that you had was that you only learned to be disciplined and organized much
Yeah.
later in life. And
Yeah.
so and so mom and dad were very concerned about whether you were going to be able
Dude,
to be successful.
mom told me the other not the other day, but last time I went to Portugal, like he said, you know, you could have turned out really bad or really good. I'm glad you turned out really good. And like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? Like in a
I
way, it's a compliment. It's a compliment, but at the same time, like, what the fuck, mom?
but
Uh,
maybe it's true. I don't know. Maybe from their perspective, it was
yeah,
obvious that it could have been that you could have been a degenerate.
yeah.
Um, not to say that you're not, but more of a degenerate.
I think I had the lazy younger brother syndrome, but then somehow things changed. But yeah, I think that's why they were more protective of me. If like from my perspective, I feel like they didn't treat us the same. I would say like with you, they were definitely a lot more. I feel like they would motivate you a lot more than they did with me. you know, because you had better grades and stuff, and I feel like they would somehow, I don't know. I kind of felt a little bit in the shadow when I was younger, but maybe it's just like our perspective, and it's not true at all. Like very biased.
I don't know, man. It's hard, I think, to treat two kids the same way,
Mm-hmm.
right? You try to give each one what you think they need.
For
So
sure.
maybe they thought I needed more motivation than you because I was a bit more, I seemed more insecure than you, and you
Really? You'd
needed
say that?
more structure. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely don't blame them for anything. I think they were really great parents. It's just it's interesting how I think people think that they're giving the same education to their children, but I think that's impossible. You will always like somehow raise your kids slightly different. It's
No,
impossible to raise them exactly the same.
it's maybe not even a good idea. If you have very different children, you give them the same education, you're not
Yeah,
going to get the same result, right? You need to,
exactly.
I think, in to some level, like the values part, maybe you want to stay the same, but you need to adapt to each child, I believe.
There's so much variation, you know. I was fucking dumb as a kid, dude. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I only cared about pictures and stuff, while you were a lot more focused and concentrated and more interested in getting to know how things work and so on. Like, you can't apply the same principles to these two
Yeah, but look at
characters.
us now. Like now, I feel like you're way more focused than I am. So it's interesting. I think you like just take an example.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a problem with my computer, I
Mm-hmm.
know that I am capable of solving the problem if I go online and I spend enough time looking things up. Like I know how to mess around with. I have a working understanding of how to troubleshoot problems on a computer.
Right.
But I'm going to give up if it gives me, if it says, just open the registry. Yeah, goodbye. I'm not going to touch that shit.
But that's
Uh,
patience. You have no patience, man. Because you would have been perfect as an engineer. You just have zero patience.
no, but
That's
the difference between us as kids was the same. I
mm,
had more patience. Focus is also about patience and,
mm.
uh, refraining from instant gratification.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
suppose
you're
so.
better at that now, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, possibly.
I'm an old impatient fool now.
Yeah, man. um, yeah. So about before, because we were talking about sports and competition and stuff, and like, how it was, how it feels to have a rival and so on. I wanted to ask you about two things, which are quite different, but there's two things, two hobbies that stand out for you. And one of them is your experience with basketball and like collective sports in general, because you really liked football too, right? Um, like
Yeah.
how was the experience of being in a collective sport or in a team? Like, did you enjoy it? Do you think like it's a gratifying experience?
Um, well, the short answer is yes. And I think it was really important for me in particular to play team sports because
Mm-hmm.
I think I was very self-centered as a kid. And there's nothing like being the worst player on a basketball team
Mm-hmm.
to knock that out of you. Like, I spent a lot of games on the bench watching other people play.
Mm-hmm.
I would sometimes get 1 or 2 minutes of game time. And so I had to practice a lot to become even decent. I've never been very strong or very coordinated. So I had to work on those skills to become even decent. I don't think I had any natural talents for basketball, except that I've always been kind of good at predicting what people are going to do.
Right. Yep.
So I think I'm good at that. So that was good for defense. Um, so ultimately, what it taught me was how to get along with multiple different types of people and personalities.
Mm-hmm.
It also taught me how to share in victory and loss. So, when you win something, you don't just get to take all the credit, you have to share it with your team. And when you lose something, you don't have to take all the blame, you share it with your team. So it's a cool trade off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then ultimately, I was captain of two teams. One team was my university team in Portugal, and for a very brief period of time, I was captain of my team in the UK in the
Oh, cool.
university as well.
I actually
But
didn't know that. Cool.
that was a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I don't know. I guess I learned that there's different ways that you can motivate someone, motivate a group. You don't
How is it being a
necessarily.
captain? Actually, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's so my understanding of the role is that you become the engine of the team. You don't necessarily need to be the best player on the team. In fact, I was never the best player on my teams.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to be is the rock that everyone can rely on. So you need to you need to be the person who can motivate the team when you're losing, the person who can calm the team down when they're too excited.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the representative of the team, so you're talking to the referees if something goes wrong. You're trying to calm people down if there's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And in practice as well, like most of the work that you do isn't even in matches, it's in practice. It's getting people to come to practice, getting people to do their best in practice, organizing. I would like to organize team dinners and just go out with the players to
Yeah,
strengthen bonds and stuff.
that fits you
So
really well, I think.
I think I learned a lot. I don't think it used to fit me, but I learned from it. It's
Mm-hmm.
cool. It's a cool role, and a lot of it is off the court, and it just teaches you to how to lead, and you can apply it in different situations. You learn
Yeah,
what
there is some
works and what
crossover,
doesn't.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Even in work now, there's a lot of things that I do now in my work that I used to do with my basketball team as well.
I was
For example,
like, what?
just if somebody has a personal problem,
Yeah,
um, I would try to address the problem with them, like to make
one on
myself
one.
available to discuss it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't force it, but if the person wants to vent about how work is being a nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
then I want to hear that, because I want to know if I can do anything to help or offer advice that I didn't get when I went through the same thing. And I also want like to interrupt what I'm doing to help other people with what they're doing. I do that a lot. And in basketball, it was sort of the same thing in the sense that um, sometimes I would want to work on something for myself, but if I can help with something else that involves other people, like practicing a play or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, that would be better. It's better for the team. So you learn to think more about what's better for the team than what's better for me as a player.
Mm-hmm. So I always found these sports, these team sports to be really interesting. Like I always enjoyed playing a bit of basketball, but mostly football, even though I sucked. But like I'm so individualistic. And also I feel like I'm a bit individualistic, so I always had a hard time joining these team sports. But also, I think a lot of it was based on fear. I didn't want to be the guy who drags down the team, and
Yeah.
but I think that's kind of I was a bit unlucky, like when we were in high school, uh, because me and the guys from my age or my year, we were mixed with you guys because our school sucks. Uh, but also, I feel like it was mostly I had to I should have not been such a pussy about it. Pretty much. But yeah, I mean, it's always been interesting to me, and I wonder if you think, do you think that everyone should do a team sport at least once, like properly?
Mm, you mean like play like I did, or play with friends?
No, like you did. So joining a proper club.
Uh, I think you should do it if you enjoy the sport. Otherwise, it's not always a pleasant experience. Like I'll be honest, like I really like basketball, and playing in a basketball team is a great way to hate basketball,
Yeah,
because it's really tough. Like at some point you have to practice so hard and you see so little gain over time because it becomes increasingly harder to improve,
right.
that it can be really frustrating. And having a bad practice sometimes is enough to ruin a night.
What's a bad
Um,
practice if you have like a bad game or?
no, it's going to practice and missing all of your shots or not making the passes that you want. It can be a tough journey, to be honest. So
Mm,
what I think is there are other ways to learn what working in a team, what team sports can teach you.
mm-hmm.
Team sports is cool because it's healthy to do team sports physically, and you also get the benefit of socializing and learning about group dynamics and working together to meet a certain goal. But definitely, there's other activities that you can do if you don't like to play sports in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you like football, sure, give it a try. Maybe it'll be cool for you. But if you don't like football or basketball, I don't think you should start playing them just because you want the benefits of having played a team sport. That's going to
Right.
be a missed experience.
Mm-hmm.
And by playing, I mean obviously playing in a structured, league. Because if you're playing with your friends, then it's completely different. Then I think everybody
Oh
should
yeah,
have
for
fun with their
sure.
friends.
For sure, it's completely different. Um, yeah. What about
Let me just give you a quick example. Like I like football. I would
mhm.
never play football competitively
Why?
because I don't like it that much. I like playing football for fun. If it
Okay.
starts to get too serious, I don't like it. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because I'm not so good at it, but it's completely different for me. Football and basketball. I would never play football seriously, and I tried when I was younger, and it didn't work out. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm not sure. I don't think I would join any team to be honest now. I did think about it before, but just not a team person. Too individualistic. Yeah,
Maybe. But
maybe.
there's ways to use that. Like in a team sport, maybe you would have the temptation to be the guy who scores the most goals or gets the most points.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also be an individualist team player by trying to be the guy who makes the most assists, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or the guy who gets the most steals.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to aim for the score. You can aim for different stats that can turn you into a good team player anyway. So you could
Mm-hmm.
try to leverage that maybe.
Yeah, I think like the for me the most frustrating thing is kind of your success being dependent on others, and also the fact that if you fuck up, you're fucking up other people as well. I think that kind of like dependency somehow bothers me a lot. I could feel that a lot with Dota, for example. That this is a game that we used to play. If no one knows what it is, it's a game. It's like a, how would you describe it? It's like an action strategy game where two teams fight against each other, and it's two teams of five. And like it's not a game where if you're extremely good, you can carry your entire team. It's rare that that happens. Usually, you need a lot of cooperation, and you need your whole team to play well with each other. You need a lot of synergy um, to win. And it's strange because I used to play a lot of Dota, and I did enjoy the game, but I really hated it when I hated it when we lost because of someone else, or when I messed it up and I ruined it for our team. It's
Yeah, I
just
mean that makes sense, but would you prefer like what was tastier?
mm-hmm,
Winning a game with your team
mm-hmm.
or winning a 1v1 in Dota?
Good question. Yeah, I think somehow it was tastier the team win.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you win, okay, you can think, okay, I won, but I didn't have anything to do with it, or that kind of win isn't very tasty. But the good wins in team games are those where everybody like plays
Contributed.
their part
Yeah.
well, and it's
Yeah.
like an orchestra coming together to play beautiful music.
Yeah.
That's
That's
way
true.
cooler than anything that you can do by yourself, in my opinion. I mean,
Mm,
in my experience in playing, I haven't played many one-on-one sports, but I've played one-on-one video games.
mm-hmm,
One-on-one video games are really cool, and you get a lot of excitement from winning.
mm-hmm,
But when you win with a team, you're sharing the excitement with everybody else, and it kind of it becomes exponential. Like
Yeah.
when you win a team game that was really close with your friends and you win
Oh, the
it,
high is huge. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
much
true.
better than it lasts longer than when you win a 1v1. You can discuss it with your friends later. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes a whole thing. Like there's still games, you know, that we can talk about. Sosa's listening to this, George
Yeah.
as well. You
Yeah.
know that we can talk about. There was a Heroes of New Earth game that we played
Yeah.
where George was playing Panda and Sosa was playing whoever. This was a game we played um, over 10 years ago, maybe. And I
Uh-huh.
guarantee you that they know exactly what game I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
It sticks with you. So it's really cool. I think it's depending on the type of person that you are,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a much more rewarding experience than one-on-one.
Definitely. And it would have been interesting to do like a martial art or something, like a contact sport or a fighting sport, um, just to see how it would feel like to win in that situation. If it would give you as big of a high as winning in a team sport or team game would. Hmm.
Maybe, yeah. It's a
Yeah,
good
maybe.
point.
Would be interesting to see. I'm not sure, but also with fighting, I've heard that if you win a fight, like the endorphins are huge. Like it's just a natural thing. So it's not really the same. Maybe
Yeah, it's a primal thing, I guess.
it's a
Like
primal thing, yeah.
you've just eliminated the opponent.
Exactly.
Like a caveman feeling like you fought for survival or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And
Must feel great.
I was gonna ask another thing, which it was supposed to be the opposite of this, but actually I'm thinking now, and it's not the opposite. It's kind of the same topic. But you were a singer in the band. How was it
Yeah.
being a singer? How is it
Um,
singing in general? Like, why do you enjoy it? Or okay, let's go with how is it being a singer? And do you think that you were a natural at singing?
how is it being a singer? Uh, okay, so the first disclaimer is obviously the band that I had last is more like a project of a band, right? So we
Mm.
rehearsed. We could play a couple of songs quite well, covers,
Mm-hmm.
but we never wrote anything original and we never performed
Mm-hmm.
for others, which was unfortunate. Mostly it ended because of Corona.
Yeah.
So we stopped being able to practice together. But I have sung in front of other people before a few times,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess I could still consider myself a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what's it like? Is that the question?
Yeah, like yeah, what's it like is very vague, I guess. But
I think it's just okay. It's easier to just explain. Like the feeling of singing is cool because um, it's different than having an instrument like a guitar or a piano, which you manipulate. This is more like you can sing anywhere. You can
mhm,
sing anywhere. You don't need any gear. You can sing in the shower. You can sing when you're walking somewhere. You can immediately create um, something that sounds nice without any sort of preparation.
mhm.
And it's also kind of an impressive skill. Not many people sing decently.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they do, but not many
Oh, I
people
wanted to
actually
talk about
sing.
that too, but we can talk about it
Yeah.
in a bit.
Um,
Uh,
and it's something that takes a lot of work in terms of controlling your pitch, developing your vocal range and strength.
mhm.
So being able to project your voice, rhythm is something very important as well.
Yeah.
So why do I like it? Actually, the reason why I like it is just because I'm good at it.
Okay. But were
It's
you
that simple.
but do you okay, so this comes back to my question before, like do you feel like you were natural at it?
No, I don't think so. When we were in London in our school, we would sing a lot because it was a religious school, so we had
Ah,
a lot of
so it
singing.
started with this, yeah.
So I just started there, and then I guess I never stopped. I
Mm.
always used to sing in the shower, and at
Mhm.
some point I wanted to be really good. So
Mhm.
I decided to try and practice it more.
Yeah.
But only in the last year and a half, when I started this band project for real, did I actually, year and a half, 2 years actually, start practicing singing like every day.
Mhm.
Um, and
And it made a
I
huge
think that
difference, right?
Yeah, I think if I have to say why you always like something that you're decent at, I think that it's easier
Yeah.
to like something that you're decent at. And so
Yeah.
because I feel good at it, it makes it easier for me to like it. Also because you hear other people compliment you, so you get your positive reinforcement from there.
Hmm.
But it's cool to be able to um, reproduce a song that you like. Like you know how you listen to something and you feel like singing along?
Hmm.
It's cool to be able to sing along well
For sure.
and to be able to reproduce the song well so that you hear exactly what you're hearing in your mind when you bring it outside and other people hear it as well.
Hmm.
That it's cool. I don't know actually. I haven't thought about this that much, but that's what I would say.
So what's up with people that yeah, we discussed this once some time ago, but why is it that with singing there's a lot of this I forgot the term, the
The
syndrome.
syndrome.
I forgot
Yeah,
the
I know what you
syndrome
mean.
name.
Dunning Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger, yeah. Why is it with singing in specific? There's a lot of this Dunning-Kruger syndrome where people feel like, um, so so the Dunning-Kruger effect is like the lower skill you, so it's like a U. The lower skilled you are at something, the more confident you are, and then as you increase in skill, your confidence goes down until a certain point where you start mastering the skill, and then your confidence slowly builds back up. And I feel like with singing, it's very common that you find people who think they're really good at singing when in reality they're not, like, at all. Like, they're terrible. They're really, really bad. And I wonder why. Is it because their perception of their own voice is completely distorted and they're not good at identifying sounds? Um,
That's one thing because the difference between singing and playing an instrument is that you don't hear the same thing that other people hear when you sing,
mm-hmm,
right? And unless you practice.
mm-hmm.
So if you've not practiced, the way that you speak, the way that you hear yourself speak
Yeah,
is different. When you hear yourself on a recording, you hear a different voice, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't recognize yourself, but that's
Mm-hmm,
what everybody else hears. The
mm-hmm.
voice in your recording is what the whole world hears when you speak. You hear differently because of the acoustics in your head.
Which is so weird, right? Like I think usually people are kind of surprised or disappointed with their voice. Like they
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
a stronger or they have a lower pitch voice than they actually do.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really it's a bummer actually. It
yeah,
takes a while. But
yeah,
you can train yourself to stop hearing a difference between what you hear recorded and what you hear in your head. At least
interesting.
that's what I believe. I don't know if that's true or not. But I feel like once I started practicing on day to day and recording myself singing,
Yeah.
that over time the voice that I heard recorded was no longer strange to me. It
Hmm.
felt like exactly what I was hearing in my head.
Were you disappointed the first time you heard your voice?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought I sounded like shit.
Really? Well, okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
for sure. It's because it's different than what you expect, and normally it's worse.
Hmm.
But the other thing is something that's interesting about singing is that it's kind of hard to tell someone that they suck at singing. It
Yep.
feels like it's a really tough insult.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's bad at
Exactly.
guitar, you can tell them, man, you really need to practice your guitar.
Hmm.
But saying to someone, you really suck at singing, it sounds like a harsher insult for some
Yeah.
reason.
I don't know why, but it cuts deep. It does cut deep. Even if the person is not that invested in singing, just hearing that they suck at singing somehow hurts. And I think that
You know what I
definitely.
think? Actually, I just had a thought. It's
Yeah.
like telling someone they're not funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
that's pretty bad.
the reason is everybody feels entitled to be a good singer and a good comedian.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everybody feels like they are funny and that they sing well,
But
I think.
especially
So,
I think especially with the comedy. I think
yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
really big one. I didn't think
That's
about
better.
that. That's a much worse one, yeah, for sure.
So it really hurts when you're told that you're not funny because you kind of feel entitled to being funny.
Hmm.
You know, it's like something everybody feels this way, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that they're funny in some way at least, or
Yeah.
to some extent.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there. I haven't thought about this enough, but maybe there's
I have to
something.
think about it too. Yeah, it's that's a good one. but it definitely, I think that it contributes to the development of the skill. The fact that you're not getting feedback, right? It's not as common. Like if you play guitar really badly, people are gonna tell you like, "Oh, that's so annoying, dude. Just can you practice more, but alone?" And you won't take it as an insult. Like yeah, it is annoying playing Wonderwall over and over and badly, and not transitioning smoothly with the chords. Yeah, it's annoying. I get that. But with singing, it's rare that someone will say, "Man, you suck at singing." You
Yeah.
know, some people get that treatment, but it's rare that someone will say it. So it becomes really complicated. You're like in this black box, and
Yeah.
unless you record yourself, you will have no idea.
Yeah, especially because the guitar will give you feedback, whereas your own voice won't give you feedback. Not
Right.
as good feedback. Like
Right.
your voice in your head is gonna sound decent always, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is a major reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real. Like, I feel like um no, never mind. Yeah, I had a stupid idea in my head. So do you have any tips on how to improve on these? Because you mentioned, so we
Yeah,
talked about basketball and we talked about singing. Like, what are your tips for how to improve on these?
basketball and singing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for basketball, the way to improve is to join a basketball club
Hmm.
and hope that you get a good coach.
So sports in
And then
general, yeah, you have to join a club pretty much.
yeah. So join a club, like try really hard at practice, find time outside of practice to work on the skills that you want to improve on as well.
But should you do
Focus on
mostly
fundamentals.
drills or because then there's another discussion, right? Should you play more games or should you do more drills? How should it be 50-50?
Um, I think the correct thing to do is what you normally do in practice, which is, well, actually, I don't know. This is a question for a coach, to be honest. But as a
Yeah.
player, you can improve in lots of different ways, and you can try to improve the way that you like most. If you just enjoy playing games, then outside of practice, you should just play games. In
Mm-hmm.
practice, you should do what the coach tells you. If you enjoy methodically practicing, then you should methodically practice outside of practice because you're going to play games in practice as well.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the idea, what I would do now, if I was starting now, would be to try and work on fundamentals outside of practice. So try to practice ball control, try to practice shooting, try to practice passing, and work a lot on physical conditioning and
Mm-hmm.
then strength. Because at lower levels of any sport, the bigger differentiator is your lung capacity, how long you can run,
Yeah, for
how long you can
sure.
jump. Yeah. I think the physical strength is also important, but it becomes much more important as you progress up in skill level. At the start, if you can run more than the other kids and you can run for longer, you're going to play better than them. You're going to score more points.
Definitely, you'll position yourself a lot better and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
We had
just
guys in our basketball team in our school who were football players. They didn't have any technical skill, but they
yeah.
were so good at running,
Mm-hmm.
such good cardio that they were still very useful
Mm-hmm.
in the team because it was such a low level league.
Exactly, dude. I remember when I was in the Catholic residence as well. There was one guy. We would play basketball every now and then, and there was one guy, João Marcos. He was he was not good at basketball at all. But he was super fast because he played
Yeah.
football regularly, and he had like huge lung capacity. So he would always be in the perfect position. You could always pass it to him, and he would be like in the perfect position, and then he would just score because he's close to the basket.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's just universal. Like
yeah,
lung capacity, speed,
yeah,
that sort of thing is universal for any sport.
yeah, yeah. But it's
And
it's important to. I think this question is important because I felt it a lot with video games, and I
mhm.
did the same mistake with Dota, for example, where like a lot of people think that they can improve by just playing the game over and over.
No, no,
Uh,
no, that doesn't work.
it does not work. It's limiting. Like you will not be a better player if you just play the games and don't do drills. Unfortunately, like
No, you're gonna strengthen your bad habits. You
mhm,
won't learn new things or not as quickly. That's why you need to join a club.
right.
So in the case of Dota, what you would need to do is to join a team and during practice with the team, you're focused on improving on a specific thing, because that's what practice is for. But then in your free time, if you want to play random games, I think that's fine. Any game that you play will improve you in some way. It's just that you also, it's okay to have unstructured improvement if you also have a good source of structured improvement.
Yep. And what about with singing? What would be your method?
For singing, it's the same. Go take singing classes, to be honest. But the way I did it, I never took singing classes. I tried to improve by myself, sort of a point of honor. And also, I didn't know if I would be able to find somebody who could teach me to sing how I wanted to sing. Right? I knew that I could find teachers to teach me how to sing lyrically, or to sing fado, or that sort of thing. I didn't know if I was going to find somebody who could teach me how to sing like a rock star.
Yep.
So I also didn't do much research. So I just thought, maybe if I sing every day and really try to focus on getting the sound just right.
Yep.
Like, so what I did was, I had a set list of 5 songs, and every day I would sing them once.
And you would try to get exactly the right pitch and whatever.
Yeah, exactly how I wanted it to sound. It didn't need to. At first, I would try to copy the vocalist or whoever I was singing, but then I tried to make my own spin once I was comfortable with the song. Like, key things about singing: you need to know the lyrics off by heart of whatever you're singing. If you're reading when you're singing, it's going to sound worse.
Okay.
You need to know off by heart what song you're singing. You need to know the whole song off by heart. You need to know when the voice starts, when stops, when you need to breathe. Especially if you're trying to sing like something like a rap, you need to know when to breathe.
Rap is really important. Holy shit. Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of it's repetition, but repetition with focus. So it's really about, like, if there was a particularly difficult part of the song, I might spend my whole practice time, which would be 15 minutes. You can't practice too long singing because your throat starts to give out. If you're constantly singing.
Yep.
It would be just focused on that section of the song. Or I would normally go through my set list, the 5 of them, and when I would come up to a song where there was a part that I wasn't good at, I would really focus on that part when it came up. And over time, you just see some improvement. And then I think if you join a band, if you have other people to play with, you get more motivated, and they can give you feedback as well. Getting feedback from other people about how you sing is very important, because your feedback is, you're super biased about how you sing. Basically, you need to admit that.
So there's one thing that some people don't know about me. I actually was in a band as well.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not as good a singer as you. I enjoy singing. I'm not a good singer at all. But there was a time where I put more effort into singing, and I basically joined like a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band. But I definitely do regret not taking singing classes. Like, I feel like I definitely would need them, and it would help a lot. And it's kind of based on what we've talked about in the past, and also talked about this with other people. Like, I personally believe that anyone can learn singing. Probably you're limited by genetics as well, but I think everyone can learn to a reasonable level. You agree with this, right?
Yeah, anyone can be decent at singing, in my opinion. Maybe not great, but decent.
Yeah,
sure.
Decent at least. Like, I don't think you can be exceptional unless you have some level.
No, but that's the same with all skills, in my opinion. Like, so first of all, I don't consider myself above decent, but anyone can reach my level, in my opinion. Secondly, when you talk about great, it depends on your definition of great, but you're reaching like the upper echelons of a skill. You're going to just meet people who work as hard as you, but they have a natural advantage. So they have a genetic advantage or some sort of talent.
Or some environmental. Maybe it might not even be genetic. It could be environmental. Like,
it could be. But I think there's a limit to what hard work can do when you reach the upper echelons of any skill. At the real top, you're going to find the people who are really hardworking and have a natural advantage. So I don't think anyone can be great or exceptional, but I do think anyone can be good, decent. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Better than average, far better than average. I think so,
You
but
should.
not exceptional.
It's kind of funny. Like there's one thing that portrays this kind of well, and it's in the arm wrestling community. I don't care about arm wrestling at all. I just randomly found some stuff about arm wrestling. I know about one guy, Devon something, Larat maybe. Like he's really famous in arm wrestling, but now there's this one guy who's just like completely dominating all the tournaments. And the thing is, his for some reason he's got like some weird disease or some weird genetic mutation. His right arm is huge, like it's gigantic, but just his right arm. He has some kind of mutation, and yeah, his bones are massive. His muscles are massive, and yeah, he did train as well because it's not just the arm; it's also like the internal rotators of your body, of the shoulder. But he's just blowing everyone away, and of course, like to be exceptional, it does require genetics as well. But yeah, I want
Yeah,
to.
a guy like that is an extreme example, but it
Yeah,
shows like the only way that you could beat a guy like that is if he wouldn't practice at all, and you could overtake him by sheer effort. But if he
yeah.
puts in the same effort as you, or maybe half the effort that you put in, suddenly he's at your level.
Yeah.
He's above your level, and you have no chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you lived in an ideal world where you could maybe somehow extend time infinitely for yourself and just practice so that you're always 10 times more skilled than he
No, that
is.
doesn't work, man,
But
because
even
there's a cap. There's a cap.
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
there's
happen.
probably a cap as well. There would probably be a cap. I'm not sure. I would guess there
There's
would be a
definitely a
cap.
cap. Just think
Yeah.
about like you can't infinitely increase your physical strength. There's a cap.
Yeah.
So if someone has a higher limit than you, then
Yeah.
you're never going to be able to be as strong as them is if they practice the same, or if they would practice infinite time,
Yeah.
they would always be stronger than you ultimately.
Yeah. At least in these competitions where you can't really use like your brain.
Drugs.
Yeah, you can use drugs, yeah. Okay, so going for the last question here, because we always put a hypothetical question in my podcast. I haven't thought about this one at all. I just saw it and I decided to put it in here. So let's see if we can both figure it out. Would you rather be able to detect any lie you hear or get away with any lie you tell? What do you think?
Oh boy.
That's a hard one.
You know, the thing is, when I was young, I was a pathological liar. Not really pathological, like I didn't have a mental disease or anything, but I lied a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't remember being happy at that time of my life, even though I thought I was a pretty good liar. I wasn't that good, but I did a lot of lying when I was younger. And at some point in my life, I decided that I was going to try as much as I could to avoid being dishonest. That doesn't mean necessarily telling all of the truth all of the time. But I wanted to avoid that feeling. It just made me feel dirty inside.
Yep.
So I think I think having the power to get away with any lie I told would trigger that same feeling with me again. Like I would feel bad. I don't know how to put it in a more complex way. I don't think I would want that power. I would try not to use it if I had it.
Yeah.
I would only use it in exceptional circumstances for, where necessary to prevent a greater evil from happening or something. So it might be good.
Let's say that these powers are switchable, by the way. So it's not always activated. Like you can activate them when you want.
So then what's the choice?
So the thing is like
so they're not always on. You can turn them on.
They're not always on. You can detect any lie you hear or get away with any lie you tell. So you would have the perfect lying ability.
Yeah. So but get away with any lie is that you can convince someone else that what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's really powerful.
It's really powerful, yeah. But it's also really useful to have the first one. But about
the first one would be useful, yeah. But the first one, I think it might become redundant. I don't know, because you could just tell another person I can, you could lie to the other person and say, I can detect when you're lying with 100% accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So then the other person, if they would not want to be caught lying, would tell you the truth. So then you wouldn't need to detect a lie.
Yeah, you could strangle them into saying the truth always, right? Um, in a way, I suppose. But I wanted to talk about lying a bit as well because I wasn't as a as I wasn't a pathological liar like you. I remember having to back up your stories a lot as a child. Yeah, all the time.
GameCube
Um,
in the attic.
so many stories. But I did exaggerate stories a lot, and I'd always spiced up a little bit the things I said. So it was kind of lying, like minor lying, uh,
Embellishing.
embellishing. Yeah, and to be honest, I think I'm a really good liar. Um, Not so much in games, but like in reality, I'm really good at lying.
Mm.
But that's not something I'm proud of. I don't like lying at all, and I nowadays, if I lie, it's to embellish the story. I never lie like properly. Um,
Yeah. I think
but
there are situations where you actually should lie.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
would agree with
definitely, definitely. I agree with you. Like 100% honesty is selfish. Actually, sometimes it can be selfish.
yeah.
There are situations where you need to lie. I mean, you can think of an exaggerated situation, of course, like if you're being tortured, and they ask you for your parents' whereabouts or your family's whereabouts. Of course, you're not going to say the truth, right? That's an exaggerated situation. But there's also situations where, like, someone is really happy about something that they made, and they're not looking forward to they don't need to improve their skill, you know. They're not obsessed with improving their skill and getting accurate feedback, you know. They just did something nice for you and they gave you something nice and you think it's shit. You're not going to tell them it's shit.
Yeah.
It's really cruel to do that. Really cruel.
Yeah.
You might think, "Oh yeah, but if I don't tell them it's shit, they'll never improve." No, it's cruel. Like it's not a skill that they want to develop. It's maybe they made like the dinner for you and they're not good at cooking. You're gonna say like, "Oh, this is terrible." No, of course not.
What about if your father's dying wish was to see you graduate
Mhm.
and he's on his deathbed and you failed your last exam and
Mhm.
you come up to his deathbed and he asks you, "Did you graduate, son?" You know, and he's about to die.
Yeah,
Like, what kind of an idiot would you need to be
of course.
to tell him the truth?
Yeah, yeah, of course you shouldn't.
Because
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. The thing about truth and lies is
Mhm.
that they both have their role,
Yep.
right? There's a time and a place to tell the truth and a time and a place to lie.
Mhm.
And it's too easy, it's too simplistic to live your life never telling the truth or never lying. It's just a
Yep.
way to avoid thinking, to be
Yep.
honest. It's just somebody who is overly candid and overly honest
Mhm.
because they feel like that's more virtuous. For me, I think that's a really limited way of thinking. And it's just someone trying to find an easy way out of
Mhm.
difficult social situations.
Yeah.
There's some situations where you shouldn't say what you're thinking about. There's some situations where you shouldn't be completely open or honest with
Yeah.
someone, and
Yep.
it's yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before. I think
Yeah.
it's selfish and it's wanting to play life on easy mode.
Yeah, and sometimes I think people confuse things, you know, because sometimes just because you feel good after you say something, it doesn't mean that you did good, you know.
Yeah,
And sometimes being super honest, like it makes you feel good in the sense that you don't feel like you're hiding anything. That makes you feel good, that openness, but it doesn't mean that you did good. It doesn't just because you feel relieved, it doesn't mean that you're doing a good thing.
yeah.
Um,
No,
and
that's a good point.
I think that's what people confuse a lot. But I do think like in general you should tell the truth and you should be honest as much as you can and basically it's like I think lying is for situations where telling the truth would hurt the person and there's no point in hurting them in that I don't know. There's probably a good rule for this, but
I don't know if there's a rule, man. That's my
Yeah.
entire point. I
Yeah.
think there's no rule. Looking for a
Maybe
rule
there
is
isn't. Yeah. It's too complicated to find a rule. But
at
going.
most you can do something, make a really broad rule, like you should try to tell the truth whenever possible. But if the costs outweigh the benefits, then you
Mhm.
should consider not telling all of the truth, and then in more extreme situations, either shut the fuck up or lie.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But okay, going back to this, what would you prefer then? To detect any lie or to get away with any lie you tell? Like
Well,
100%
my
lie
first
or
thought my first thought is detect any lie, because that's really useful for my line of work
extremely useful, yeah.
as a lawyer.
Mm.
But and also like it would, but I don't know, because it's also a kind of a weird power, because I think
Mhm.
there's one thing about lying is, what is a lie? It's when you say something that you know to be false, or you believe to be false, right?
Mhm.
So for example, if you ask someone how they feel about you,
Yeah.
or if someone tells you in a moment, like they're upset at you, but because they realize that uh, wait, I want to put this in a way that makes sense.
Sure.
Like sometimes the feeling that the thoughts that you have in a given moment are true because you feel them that moment, but they're not true in the larger scale of things. Like
Okay.
if you have a girlfriend, you can be so upset with her after a fight that you want to break up with her. And
Mhm.
you literally do feel that you want to break up with her. And like, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
But in reality, you don't actually want to do that. Like when you calm down and think things through, it's not something that's a genuine desire that you have. It was a spur of the moment thing. So let's say that you're in one of those moments where you're super upset.
Yep.
And the girlfriend would ask you, "Do you want to break up with me?" And you would say no. And the girlfriend would be able to detect that you're lying, and would say, "Okay, then fine, let's break up." Um, and it would create a huge problem,
Right.
because somebody was able to access a thought that should have stayed private in your mind.
Yeah. So you
Um,
you you actively lie in that moment because
I don't
yeah.
know if even if you're lying, you're just not saying what you think. You're not
Yeah.
exposing what you think. So maybe
Mm.
that's a lie. I don't know. But anything that lets you look into the mind of somebody else when they don't want you to
Mhm.
is dangerous for personal relationships.
I think that's a really interesting situation. Yeah, I wonder if it's a lie or not to just expose how you feel in that sense. Because maybe you realize like, oh, in general, I don't want to break up,
Mm.
but right now, I do feel like breaking up. Um, I'm not sure, but it's that's a good situation. Like if the other person had the ability to detect lies. So what would it be for you? Like, what would you prefer?
So did you say we can switch it on or off, or is it
You can
always on?
switch it. I'm gonna put the rule that you can switch it on and off.
That makes the choice a lot easier, I think. It
Yeah.
makes yeah, because it's going to be the ability to lie, because that lets you manipulate other people to do whatever you want, and it includes the first power.
I
Like I
wouldn't
said,
take the second one actually. I wouldn't take that one.
is it again the corruption and jaded thing?
No, actually no. It's just because I'm kind of obsessed with the truth a little bit. Like I don't of course it would probably hurt me to know the truth, but I would
Mhm.
like to in some situations know when someone is lying to me. And I think I would
Well,
value
then,
that more than lying. Uh because I feel also because I feel like I'm a pretty good liar maybe.
but
Uh
how hard would it be if you can convince anyone of a lie?
mhm.
You could just say to that person, if you doubt that they are telling the truth,
Yeah.
"Do you know that I am able to detect when you're lying with 100% accuracy? Now, do you want to repeat what you said?"
Mhm.
Would you, if a person is convinced thoroughly
Yeah.
that you can tell when they're
I
lying,
see
I
what
don't
you
think
mean.
they would insist on the lie. So
But
the only
they could
problem with
choose to
that,
not talk. They could choose to not talk.
they could choose to not talk, but that's revealing in itself.
Yeah,
I
it
guess it's not
is, I
exactly, it's not
guess.
perfect. I agree that it's not
Yeah,
perfect,
but
because
I
the
see what you
detection
mean.
one would detect it. Yeah.
Hmm. You could play it so that you can almost have both powers. That's true.
Yeah. But
Uh,
if you don't simplify it, if it would be always on, I
yeah.
think that's where it's more interesting.
Okay, so let's assume that it's always on. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
If it's always on,
Then I would definitely not take the first one, actually.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it's always
But then
Pick
it
the
becomes
second one
simpler, right?
under your control.
But so it's reversed. I mean,
Hmm.
if it was always on, you would pick the
Yeah,
second one.
yeah.
Um, but if it was but you said if it wasn't always on, you'd still pick the second one. I would pick the first one.
Yeah, but the reason is different. If
Yeah,
it's always on, I pick the second one because it allows me control over the power.
right.
The first, if it's always on and you always detect lies, then you can't turn it off. It's not under your control. It's a curse, not a blessing, right?
Exactly. Mm.
Um, Whereas because you don't know when you can when it's on, you can't control when it's on or off. If you can control that,
Hmm.
then the reason why I would pick the second one is because it feels to me like it includes most of the first one. So it feels like
Yeah.
a strictly better solution.
Yeah, I mean,
Otherwise, I would pick the first one.
the second one is definitely the most overpowered one, for sure. But still, I feel like it would be a bit gimmicky to use the second one to get the effect of the first
It
one,
would, it would, it would, it
even though
would.
even though it's possible for sure. And also, I guess I can put a little bit the jaded corruption argument as well. Like, if you have this power of lying to someone perfectly,
Yeah.
oh man, that's, I mean, it would change your life too much, I would say. And then
It would be
I don't
really
know.
weird to like balance all of the different. I wonder what would happen. Like
Yeah.
if you would tell multiple different lies to people that were incompatible between them, I wonder what would happen. Like they would create some sort of
Oh
paradox,
man.
maybe.
Oh, good question. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's an interesting question. I wonder what people will think. Um, but yeah, thanks a lot, man. I mean, we covered a lot of ground here. I actually
Yeah, it's a
had
long
even
talk.
more questions, but I think it's enough for today. Um,
Maybe you can come back after you've gone through all of your other guests.
Definitely. I would love to have you back,
Yeah, that
and
would be really cool.
it'd be great to go for another round. And yeah, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for listening. And if you have any questions for me or for Martin, and if you have any comments you want to make, just feel free to comment in the comment section or write to us, whatever. Also, check out Martin's YouTube channel. Like and subscribe.
Oh man, it would be better to plug my blog if it were still active.
Yeah.
But I mean, if people want to find out more about the list,
Oh yeah, I
maybe you
can
can
put
put
your.
the
I'll put it in. I'll put it in.
yeah, put it in the description because I spend a lot of time describing it in more detail. Maybe somebody will be interested in
I'll
reading
put your
it.
blog in.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everyone, and
Thank you.
see y'all later.